I think Thomas Frank could face a real conundrum next season about who his number one is. I think Thomas Frank loves a ball playing goalkeeper. He loves the ability to play medium to short passes, but also the ability to go long. And Tottenham have two keepers in Vicario and Kinsky who will be under consideration. I expected Vicario to be the main starter, especially in that first Reading game. I thought he's going to come out, he's going to have the gloves, and it was actually Kinsky. And I don't know how much to read into that because obviously first game of pre-season. But in this video, we're going to look at the suitability of both keepers to a Thomas Frank system and look at what we think he's trying to build at Spurs going off that first pre-season game, and then what that will mean for a goalkeeper in that system and what's required from them. We will also be taking a look at the Reading game in detail, especially at the keeper's ball playing and kind of the issues that they faced and how they both coped with it. And then at the end, we'll evaluate what we think Thomas Frank will do. So let's start by talking about the strengths and weaknesses of both players, starting with Vicario. I think Vicario is one of the best shot stoppers in the league. I think he's agile. He gets across his goal well. He manages kind of the distances and angles well. Obviously, I'm not a goalkeeper expert, so a lot of what I'm going to be talking about is more commanding of the box and their ability to distribute the ball. But Vicario is a very strong shot stopper. His weaknesses come, I think, when he's coming to command the box and collect the ball, especially from crosses and set pieces. I think there's two reasons for this. I think one, his physical build is quite slight, which does benefit him in some ways because it makes him agile. But also he can get dominated in that box, and this then leads to sort of nervy dealing with set pieces, him flapping at stuff often, and to be honest, he just doesn't look like he wants to come and collect the ball. I think Vicario's ball playing has split a lot of opinion. I think for me, Vicario is a solid ball playing goalkeeper. I think under Ange, what really worked for Vicario was his bravery and his sort of forward thinkingness. So his ability to constantly see it and play it, not hesitate, play the pass as soon as you see it. And I think part of that was Ange's want for quick build up and not to hesitate. And I think Vicario did really well there, especially as the options were pretty limited in build ups. I think his weaknesses lied a bit more with his longer and medium length passing, but I think we'll touch on that a bit later. I think with Kinsky now, his ball playing is incredible. I've not seen a keeper at Spurs with the confidence of Kinsky on both feet to not only play like chipped channel passes or clipped to the fullbacks, but also the ability to play line breaking passes. It's both bravery, but it's also technical ability. And I think the advantage of him being both footed is massive here. He's only 22 as well, so there's a lot of developing still with him, which is on his side. Where Kinsky lacks, I think, is the shot stopping at the moment. There was some key errors last season when he was coming in for Vicario. I'm not surprised. I think he's 22. Keepers peak a lot later than average players, so I think there's a lot more to go on. But I think Frank will really like his ball playing, and this was demonstrated pretty much in the Reading game. So if we take a look at the way that Reading set up. They were looking to press in a very narrow 4-3-3 to really block that central area of our progression. So what that really did is leave the fullbacks pretty open for a pass from Kinsky. Now, if we take a look at that on the tactics board, if we take a look at how Reading were pressing, it was very much, if you just focus on the front three here, it was very much this, blocking any central pass over here. And what that did is left both Porro and Udogie very spare to be the outball. Especially Udogie, who was kind of quite high and wide and had a lot of space on that touchline. And I think Kinsky did really well here to often just clip the ball over to Udogie and at times also Porro. And that really released our build-up and then disrupted their shape. And then obviously the winger, once Porro kind of got the ball, the winger would have to come and track over. Then the 9 would try, and this would then open up Romero, and then we could play. And I think Kinsky was excellent at that. There was also times where he really dwelled on the ball, and let's say Romero and Danso got wider, and he might shape to go and play to Danso, and as the kind of winger moves over there, he'd just break the line and play Bentancur, and we'd be kind of a bit freer in midfield. So I think Kinsky, he's so good at that. And I think it's his confidence, especially. I think he's happy, let's say, to receive the ball even out of his own penalty box when the ball's passed back, which obviously pushes the opposition back, and we're able to get higher and play from there. And even then, he's happy to dwell on it, wait for the press, and then play through. I think Kinsky's ball playing is just unbelievable, to be honest. So if we look at how that sort of took place in the game, we can see him kind of picking up the ball way outside his penalty box there, and really comfortable to just chip it over to Porro at that right back role. And to be honest, this was a key part of our progression. I think we progressed the ball really well in that first half. At times we were a bit too safe in midfield, but I think that first phase of build-up, I think Kinsky really aided us there. And this was a massive kind of positive with having Kinsky in goal. And we kind of saw the difference between having someone like him and someone like Vicario. And yeah, I think there was one sort of negative moment of Kinsky in that half where he came to try and punch the ball and completely missed it. And I think, again, Kinsky, just like Vicario, hasn't got good command of his box, which is not ideal, especially for someone like Frank, who's so big on set pieces in both boxes. I think he'll want a keeper to be really commanding. I think Frank will work on this with the goalkeeping coaches and the goalkeepers themselves, because he won't be happy with the way either of them sort of command their box. In the second half, though, I think our ball progression noticeably dropped off, and I think Vicario was one of the reasons for that. I think Reading continued to press in this narrow shape, and he was very hesitant on the ball. And the thing about Kinsky was just that calm that he spread through the team. But Vicario, on the other hand, he dwelled on it when he shouldn't have. He also struggled to play those same chipped passes out wide. I think that is one of his weaknesses. I think his short passing is pretty strong, but his longer passing is not great. And that fullback pairing continued to be the outball even when the personnel changed. I think also the changes in midfield didn't necessarily help Vicario. I think we did move a bit more to a single pivot-ish system, and Bissouma was that. And that obviously just takes away one of the options that Vicario has. 3 options is obviously not as many as 4. And Vic Bergvall was kind of hovering around this position, not really wanting to take it in these areas. I think that was probably an instruction to sort of push the midfield a bit back. But Vicario really kind of struggled with just having these 3 options and not being able to really find those fullbacks consistently anyway. I think Vicario, one thing that I think really helped him in the Ange system was that a lot of the passes that we wanted to play, forget the personnel here, but let's just say this is pretty much what we were doing under Ange. Then we had the wingers really wide. I think Vicario's short passing is good, and like I said at the start of the video, he wants to play quick and short, and as soon as he plays it, he's going to play it. As soon as he sees it, he's going to play it. And those short passes to the centre-backs are pretty much what Ange consistently wanted. I guess if the striker kind of blocked this off, at times the 6 would come and get it, and that would be... But there was no kind of longish passes. All the passes were nice and short and quick. And I think Vicario learned that pretty quickly, that was what Ange wanted. And so I think once the patterns of play were spread through the team, I think this was clear for Vicario. And he didn't ever hesitate. He was brave constantly, even though he sometimes made mistakes, because again, he's not the most technical goalkeeper. He consistently was brave with it and kept doing it. And that, for that reason, he was pretty competent at it. And that, I think, was part of that was the fact that he had learnt the system so well, and he was familiar with what Ange wanted, and part of that was the bravery. Now, I think where Frank is going to probably want more, not all the time, I think he'll want short, patient progression as well, but at times, like that game, there was the outball. Frank wants to play that. He wants to be adaptive. He wants to be able to kind of find the opposition's weakness, and in build-up, that was it. And Vicario not having the flexibility to be able to play those passes as well as these short passes, I think is gonna hurt him. And so I think Frank will be seriously considering the difference between both keepers. And part of that is not good news for Vicario. But I think we've still got to remember that goalkeeping is mainly about shot stopping, preventing goals into the net. And I think Vicario is still a level above Kinsky in that. And it's not like any other position where you can sort of rotate them situationally. You want that familiarity with your back line. And in an ideal world, you'd play Vicario in games where we're going to face a lot of shots, and Kinsky in games where we're going to constantly dominate possession, and it's going to be all about the build up and how we put our team in the best scenario through playing through the thirds to score goals. And we're not obviously going to rotate our keepers, and I'm not suggesting that, but in an ideal world, that would kind of solve the problem here that we have with one very good ball playing goalkeeper and one very good shot stopping goalkeeper. But I would imagine that the Vicario does get the nod going forward in this season just because of that. One, that experience, but two, Frank he's a pragmatist, so he knows that the most important thing is to stop goals going in, and Vicario, I believe, will stop more goals going in than Kinsky. But if you are liking this video so far, please do press the subscribe button. It's really helping to grow this channel. And please do drop it a like as well if you really do enjoy this video. Now, just to finish off, I want to talk about a bit of an interesting role that I kind of formulated for Kinsky especially. I don't necessarily think this would work with Vicario, but I think one thing we've seen from a lot of top managers, Pep Guardiola especially with Edison has used him, Luis Enrique I think has done it at times with Spain, which is basically using the goalkeeper as a third centre-back in build-up, and you push them really high up. Let's say here, I think this is mainly would be a viable option against lesser teams, low block teams that aren't willing to press, and basically you get a spare man. And I think there's been a lot of talk around the wastefulness of having Porro deep here because we know how good his final third delivery is. And I think in certain games that really could be the case. I think when teams are really not wanting to press, they're wanting to really drop off. That might be a bit too deep, but you get the picture. Udogie and Porro then become spare because you have that three in build up, that solid shape. And let's say they do press a little bit, we still have that sort of overload with the double pivot and the three here. And obviously this is a highly risky role for a goalkeeper. But we've seen a lot of managers do it, and it really does aid the build up because you basically get that extra player outfield. Of course, you need a really technically strong goalkeeper, a really brave goalkeeper, calm goalkeeper as well. But if you just think about that, imagine basically it gives you that back three that we've been looking for with Porro, Van de Ven and Romero, but with a goalkeeper, which frees up Porro, frees up Udogie, and we really push the team back. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting kind of proposition. One that maybe we wouldn't see in the first season of Frank, as we know he's kind of trying to build those solid foundations. But I think it's something that Kinsky could very well do. And with such technically proficient and attacking fullbacks, we do want to free them up at times, especially against low blocks, because the amount of width they can hold and the quality that they have in different ways from those touch lines really will then allow them to kind of dominate that flank in an attacking sense, but also allow our wide players, who are predominantly all better in the half spaces, to then do what they're best at, which is Kudus, nice little dribbles in those half spaces, Tell maybe the ability to cut in and shoot from those half spaces, with Udogie pulling extra men out wide while the space opens up for Tell. Stuff like that, I think it's a really interesting proposition, and it is definitely one against lesser teams, because if there is a team that's willing to press really high and we lose the ball here, obviously it's very, very risky. But I think against teams that really drop off, if Frank still wants that kind of set build-up shape of a 3-2, I think Kinsky can definitely do this. I think it's an interesting one. I do expect Vicario to be the main goalkeeper this season, but I don't think Kinsky will be far off. And I think if he does impress and Vicario has some shaky games, I'm sure that Frank won't hesitate to rotate keepers. I think he's done this in the past. But for me, I think Vicario is still underappreciated in the fan base. I think his shot stopping is excellent, and there are only so many keepers that are commanding of their box, great shot stoppers, great with the ball at their feet. You're not going to find one who has all three, especially not at the level we're at currently. I think we can work towards that, and I think potentially if Kinsky works on his weaknesses, I think he could become a very, very good keeper. I think his ball playing is unlike most. I think only Edison I've been more impressed by in the Premier League. So I think it's definitely one to watch, but I do expect Vicario to stay as the number one. But if you do enjoy this sort of analytical and tactical Spurs content, then please do subscribe. Please also like the video and comment down below what kind of video you'd like to see next, because we're going to be recording at least 2 videos a week, possibly 3. So there's plenty of space and time to create whatever you guys want diving into. I'm happy to do it. Keep an eye out for the next videos coming. Please share this with your friends also, because I want to build up a really nice Spurs community on this YouTube channel. And come on, you Spurs.